Hi, I'm Stray, or Stray Tech Man, or Napoleon. Some of you asked if I could make a tutorial on how I did this effect. Now I assure you that this is actually relatively easy, it just requires a lot of setup. I'm going to walk you through it step by step, and I'm sure you can do it yourself. So I use OBS in its original flavor. I don't know if it'll work in any other program. If it takes the plugins, I assume it'll work, but I just don't know for sure. I use VTube Studio for my model, and this is what we're going to be using for the tutorial today. We're going to be using Stream Deck in order to automate this into a single button press. If you don't have the physical hardware, there is a mobile app that you can use. We're also going to need several plugins for Stream Deck in order to make this all work. The main ones are going to be OBS Tools by BarRaider and VTube Studio by Kazar. For the tutorial, we're going to be using voice mod as well in order to play the sound. This is an optional step because there is a built-in soundboard within Stream Deck that you can use instead. We're going to need several plugins for OBS as well. First, we're going to need StreamFX. The link will be in the description. We're going to need this to do transparency. Next, we're going to need Move Transition. This is what's going to actually do the movement. Next, in order to make that BarRaider extension work, we're going to need OBS WebSocket. So once the WebSocket plugin is installed, you're going to want to go up here to Tools and go down to WebSocket's server settings. You're going to want to make sure that there is a password set. You do not want to leave this unpassword protected. That WebSocket server is how BarRaider is going to connect to OBS and do all those good things. Now, when you install OBS Tools with BarRaider, it should prompt you to connect to that WebSocket server. If not, once you drag something over that's going to need it, it's going to ask. So we're just going to drag something over and trigger that. You're going to get this pop-up over here. You're going to click on link. Everything should be set to its default. You're going to put whatever your password was in here, and you're going to hit save. And once you see this plugin confirmed, you're good to go. You can just X out. So in order to set up VTube Studio to connect to Stream Deck, the first thing you need to make sure is toggled on is the Start API switch. It's going to default to port 8001. That's just fine. We're going to grab one of these actions from VTube Studio Kazar, and we're going to drag it onto the bar. Now, as you can see, we immediately get a message that it's not connected to VTube Studio. And if we scroll down, we're going to see that it is trying to connect on our local host IP address to port 8001. Which is this port. So we're going to go ahead and click connect, and that's going to cause a pop-up on VTube Studio to appear. Sometimes you have to toggle this on and off, and there it is. You're going to click on allow, and that's it. You can see over here in Stream Deck now that we see various options. I named this model Stray, but it's going to pop up as Maria. Click on that, and we're going to choose the hotkey we want to trigger. And in this case, we're going to do the SAG. So now when I push this button, I get sad. Now we do want to make sure that the sound is also available on Stream Deck. As I said, I use voice mod to control all my sounds. It just seems to make things easier for me. So we're just going to go ahead and scroll down and select a soundboard and just drag it over. I already have the sound we'll be using set up here at the bottom. Now, if you do decide to use the built-in soundboard to Stream Deck, you're going to click on play audio and just drag it over. As you can see, you can select what file you want and set it to play, start, volume, output, all this fun stuff. Now we're just making all these buttons to make sure that all the things we need to happen in our multi-action switch will actually work. So now we just have to do all the work we need to do here in OBS. Now your interface may look a lot different from mine, but the two important windows we need are scenes and sources. Now as you can see, I already have a source with the game capture of my VTube Studio. So you may be wondering how we apply transparency, and the answer is we don't to this. So you're going to click on the plus sign to add a new source, and you're going to choose the option for source mirror. Like anytime you add a new source, we need to create a name. I try to start this with the word mirror, so I know this is the mirror, and it's the mirror of VTS GC. Once you're here, go ahead and click on source, and we're going to choose that VTS game capture source. And we're going to hit OK. Now it may look like that nothing has happened, but in fact, there are two of me now. You normally want to set a mirror because if you try to add the same source twice, OBS can get really funky. Now next, we need to make this mirror transparent. And this is where StreamFX comes into play. So to apply the transparency, we're going to right click on the mirror that we created. and we're gonna go up to filters. Once you have the filter screen up, you're gonna go down here to effect filters. You're gonna click on the plus sign and select dynamic mask. Now we need to select here the input source, which is gonna be set to the original source. So now a mask is gonna be dynamically applied to the mirror based on what the source looks like. Now this does mean you can do things like manipulate color values and do a lot of funky stuff with that. But what we really wanna do is go all the way to the bottom to the alpha channel, and we're gonna change the base value. In this case, I'm gonna set it to just 0.60. So now that we have everything transparent, we need to make this thing move. Hello, it is Stray from the future, who is here to tell you that I forgot something important. So if you want to achieve the aesthetic where your transparent model appears larger than yours, make sure you resize it prior to following the next steps. Otherwise, the transforms are going to be wrong, and I am dumb for not mentioning this ahead of time. To do that, that's where the Move Transition plugin comes into play, and that gets applied to the scene level. We're going to go down here to Scene, we're going to right click it, and we're going to choose Filter. For the scene filter, we actually need to create two here. Two, because we need one for where we want the image to go to during the animation, and a second to send it back to where it was. I'm maximizing the window here a little bit because you actually have to manipulate both this filters window and the main OBS window simultaneously. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down here to the plus sign, and we're going to choose Move Source, and we're going to name this the reset point. Now, once you have it set, make sure that the source that you're manipulating is set to the mirror. Now, we're setting both the initial position and the position it's going to go back to after the animation. And the way we set that is by pushing this Get Transform button. When we push this button, it's going to take whatever position it's currently in as the reset point. So we're going to drag this window over, and we're going to move the source so it is out of frame. And now we're going to hit the Get Transform button, and you can see it fills in all those positions. So next, we need to make the point we want it to move to. So we're going to hit plus again and do Move Source, and this one we're going to call Swipe Left. Once again, make sure the source is set to your mirror. So we're going to click and drag it across the window until it is off screen on the other side. Then we are going to hit Get Transform. Now, you'll see that there are two eyeballs to the left of both filters. Clicking either of these eyeballs will allow you to preview the animation that you have basically coded yourself. I'm going to click Reset Point, and you will see it snap back to the right. And I'm going to click Swipe Left, and you'll see it snap to the left. Look at it go. Now, obviously, we want to control how fast it moves. We can use the Custom Duration section to do so. The sound I'm using is about 7,500 milliseconds. That's 7.5 seconds. I want to make sure that with any processing lag, the animation completes before that sound ends. So I'm going to set this to an even 7,000 milliseconds. And because I want the movement to be extremely smooth, I'm going to set the easing to be no easing. We also want to make sure that the mirror itself is set so the visibility is off. So the full thing we're going to automate is going to be enabling the mirror visibility, swiping it left over a long period of time and letting the sound peter out, and then we're going to make it invisible for it to snap back to the reset point. And we're going to do all that with Stream Deck. Remember, we're going to create a multi-action. We're going to script this all so it's a one-button press, so you don't have to switch it off. Now, sometimes there is what I call processing lag with Stream Deck, where basically every time it performs an action, it takes just a second to let that go through. It's actually not a full second, it's more like maybe 100 milliseconds, but it's something you should be mindful of. This is also why I set that animation to 7,000 milliseconds instead of the full length of the song. So with respect to the time that the animation can take to make a sad face, I usually set that as the first action in this multi-action. So we're going to go ahead and click on Trigger Hotkey and drag this over. Once it's over, you're going to go down here to Model and select your model. And now you're going to choose the hotkey you want, in this case, the sad face. I'm also going to name this Toggle Sad. This is a toggle, which means we do need to make sure that we do this a second time at the end of the multi-action to turn off the sad face. So you're gonna click on it and just hit Control C for copy and Control V for paste. The next thing I'd like to add is the actual sound. Again, I'm using voice mod, so I'm just gonna grab soundboard and drag it over. I'm gonna go to profile and select my soundboard and then select the song itself. I'm also gonna give it the same name so I can see in this list what it is. And of course, reorder it. Next, we need to do two things that Bar Raider OBS Tools is gonna do for us. So you're gonna scroll through the list of all these actions and you're gonna look for source visibility. And we're gonna drag that over. I'm going to name this Show Mirror. I'm going to set it to Show instead of Toggle because I like things to be a bit more explicit. You're going to choose the scene name. I named this scene just Scene. Then of course you're going to pick the source in that scene being the mirror. Like the sad toggle, we're going to need to turn this off for when we move it back into position. So go ahead and Control C, Control V again. And this one, of course, we're going to modify to be Hide Mirror. Now, in order to trigger the actual animations, we're going to need the filter toggle action. So once again, we're going to give it a descriptive name. Remember that the source for the move transitions is actually the scene itself. So we're going to go down, we're going to select Scene. This is the swipe left, so the filter name that we're picking is Swipe Left. Now these move transitions are set to disable after it goes through, so we do not need to worry about setting a disable. We also need an entry in order for it to swipe back over, so we're going to copy and paste this as well. We're going to rename it to Reset Point, and we're going to set the filter name to Reset Point. Lastly, we need to drag these so that they are after we show the mirror, but before we hide the mirror. And now we just need to make sure that it has the proper amount of time between things. Now Stream Deck will go through all these actions in order, but it doesn't know that we need to wait 7 seconds for the swipe left to finish. So we need to tell it to wait that time between the swipe left action and the reset point action. To do that, we're going to go into Stream Deck, select delay, and drag it over. Because the song is 7.5 seconds long, we're going to set this to the same amount of time. And then we're going to drag this up so it's between swipe left and reset point. Now, one more thing I just noticed is we actually want to make sure that we are hiding the mirror before we set it to the reset point. Otherwise, anyone watching the stream will see it go back to the right side of the screen. And that's basically it. So now when we push this button, it's going to give me a sad face, play a sad song, show the transparent image, swipe it to the left, wait for it to be done, then hide it from being visible, move it back, and make me happy again. Also, so for those of you who catched it, I set the delay to 75 seconds instead of 7.5. I fixed that. But now all this is a single button press. In 3, 2, 1. And that's all there is to it. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way through to the end. I really appreciate it. If you want to see me do this stuff live, you can do so over at twitch.tv/StrayTechMan. I stream there a couple times a week, but you can always find the schedule on my Twitter, which is also StrayTechMan. Please like, favorite, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever other nonsense and algorithm interaction, give me good things. And I'll see you at the next video or catch you at the next stream.